All right, so today we're diving into a world that's both ancient and surprisingly modern.
hmm
Kosher butchery.
Absolutely.
We've got the RoleCatcher guides right here,
Yeah.
ready to help you ace that interview. But before we get into those specific questions,
Yeah.
maybe we can take a step back and kind of just break down like what this job actually held.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Beyond the knives and cuts.
Right.
A kosher butcher is like a guardian of tradition, ensuring that everything adheres to those Jewish dietary laws,
Uh-huh.
the kashrut.
Okay, so it's not just about being like a skilled butcher. It's about understanding a whole other layer of practice and responsibility.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's what really shines through in these RoleCatcher interview questions.
Yeah,
They're designed to gauge not only your skills, but also like your commitment to those traditions.
I see, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of those questions then.
Okay.
The guide starts with a classic. Tell us about your experience working as a kosher butcher. Seems simple enough, right? But I bet there's more to it.
Oh, absolutely. They're not just looking for a list of like your past jobs.
Okay.
This is your chance to showcase your passion, your
Ah,
connection to this craft.
right.
Think about specific experiences that highlight your understanding of kosher practices.
So like instead of saying, I worked at XYZ butcher shop,
Yeah.
maybe talk about a time you had to make like a judgment call
Yes.
about whether a piece of meat was kosher or not.
That's a great example. Or perhaps you could even describe a moment when you had to explain a specific kosher practice to a customer who maybe wasn't familiar with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's about demonstrating your knowledge in action.
It's like you're not just reciting information, you're telling a story that like brings your experience to life.
Exactly. And speaking of stories, RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze your responses and like suggest ways to make them even more compelling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
it might suggest adding specific details or restructuring your answer for maximum impact.
So it's like having a personal storytelling coach,
Yeah.
helping you refine your interview narrative. That's pretty cool.
It is, and it's especially valuable when tackling a question like, how do you ensure that all meat products prepared and sold are in accordance with kosher dietary laws? This one goes deep into the heart of the job.
Yeah, it's not enough to just say, I follow the rules, right?
Right. They want to hear about your specific knowledge of kashrut.
Okay.
This might include mentioning things like sourcing kosher meat, using separate utensils and equipment for meat and dairy, and following those specific preparation and storage procedures.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a detective for deliciousness,
Right.
ensuring that every step of the process meets those kosher standards.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to get specific. Maybe mention a recent challenge you faced in upholding those standards and how you overcame it.
I see.
Yeah, those real-world examples, they really make your knowledge stand out.
That makes sense, and that's where I imagine RoleCatcher's AI can come in handy.
Absolutely. It might suggest incorporating the STAR method situation task action result to structure your answer and highlight your problem-solving skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about experience and knowledge, but what about like staying up to date?
Yeah.
The guide mentions a question about how do you stay current with changes in kosher dietary laws and regulations?
Yeah,
This field is constantly evolving, right?
absolutely. And they want to see that you're committed to continuous learning.
Okay.
This is your chance to really showcase your proactive approach to staying informed.
So it's not enough to just say, I read stuff.
Definitely not mention, industry conferences and workshops you've attended.
Right.
Maybe share a recent regulation that surprised you and how you integrated it into your practice.
Wow.
Show them you're actively engaged in the field.
Now, I'm curious, are there any specific resources or publications you recommend for staying current with kosher dietary laws?
That's a great question, and one they might even ask you in the interview. You could mention reputable organizations like the Orthodox Union or the Rabbinical Council of America. They publish guides and updates that are essential for any kosher butcher.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about knowing where to find the most reliable information.
Exactly.
That shows a real dedication to your craft.
Precisely. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you research and even practice your responses to these specific questions, giving you that extra edge in the interview.
It's like having a research assistant and a coach all rolled into one. Pretty neat.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered experience, knowledge, staying current. What other challenging questions does the guide highlight?
Well, there's one that focuses on dealing with difficult customers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they might ask you to tell us about a time you had to deal with a difficult customer. And this one's all about showcasing your interpersonal skills.
Because, let's face it, every job has its tricky customer moments.
Sure.
But in this field, it's even more delicate, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're not just dealing with like a complaint about a product.
Right.
You're potentially dealing with someone's deeply held beliefs about food and tradition.
You hit the nail on the head. That's why it's crucial to demonstrate your ability to stay calm, respectful and professional, while still upholding those kosher practices.
So maybe share an anecdote about a time a customer questioned a specific kosher practice.
Yeah.
How did you address their concerns while also educating them about the importance of those traditions?
That's a perfect example. It shows that you can handle sensitive situations with both diplomacy and a deep understanding of kosher principles.
And I bet RoleCatcher's AI can offer suggestions on how to frame those experiences in a way that highlights your communication and problem-solving skills.
Absolutely. It can even analyze your tone of voice during practice sessions to ensure you're coming across as calm and empathetic, even when describing a challenging situation.
That's incredibly helpful. It's like having a personal feedback loop to fine-tune your interview performance. That's great. Okay, so we've talked about experience, knowledge, staying, current customer service. Is there anything else?
Well, there are a couple more,
Okay.
but we can get into those next time.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll pick this back up next time on the deep dive.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right, so we're back and ready to dive into some more of those tricky interview questions for aspiring kosher butchers. And I think it's time to talk about food safety, right? Like, that has to be top of mind.
Oh, absolutely paramount in any kind of butchery.
Right.
But even more so when you're dealing with kosher practices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the next question in the RoleCatcher guide is, how do you ensure that all meat products are kept at the proper temperature? Seems pretty straightforward,
Right.
but I'm sure there are some nuances there.
Oh, absolutely. They want to hear about your meticulous approach to temperature monitoring, storage procedures, equipment sanitation.
Okay.
It's about showcasing your commitment to both food safety and those kosher standards.
So it's not just about knowing the right temperature range, it's
Yeah.
about showing that you have systems in place to maintain those temperatures consistently. Precisely, you could mention specific tools or techniques you use, like digital thermometers, regular equipment calibrations.
Okay.
Maybe even share an example of a time you identified a potential temperature issue and how you resolved it.
Right, like swiftly and effectively.
Exactly.
That shows you're on top of it.
Yeah, that proactive approach to food safety is key.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm curious, does the guide offer any specific tips on how to structure your answer to this question?
It does. It suggests incorporating the STAR method again.
Okay.
Situation, task, action, result.
Right.
So you could describe a specific situation where temperature control was crucial, outline the task you had to complete, explain the actions you took to ensure proper temperatures, and then highlight the positive result of your action.
That's super helpful. It gives you a framework to build your answer around.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're showcasing those skills and experience in a clear and compelling way.
Absolutely. And I bet RoleCatcher's AI can provide even more personalized feedback on your response.
Right, like it could maybe recommend adding details about specific kosher practices related to temperature control
Exactly.
to show that you've gone that extra mile.
It's like having a kosher butcher right there giving you feedback.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about experience, knowledge, staying current customer service, and now food safety. What other challenges might I face in this interview?
Well, they might ask you about your ability to handle pressure. You know,
Oh,
question like, can you tell us about a time you had to work under pressure to meet a deadline? Pretty common.
yeah, that makes sense. I can imagine a kosher butcher shop gets pretty hectic,
Oh, yeah.
especially around holidays or if a big order comes in,
Absolutely. They want to know you can handle the heat.
so to speak.
Exactly. And it's not just about working quickly.
Right.
It's about maintaining those kosher standards, even when things are chaotic.
That adds like a whole other layer of stress to the situation.
Yeah.
It does. So when you're answering this question, think about a specific example where you had to balance efficiency with those all-important kosher practices.
So maybe like a time when a large order came in unexpectedly,
Yeah.
or a piece of equipment malfunctioned right before a busy period.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
Describe the situation, how you prioritize tasks, the steps you took to ensure everything was still done according to kosher guidelines, and how you ultimately delivered a successful outcome despite the pressure.
It's about showing you can think clearly, stay organized, and maintain those high standards.
Yes.
Even when the clock is ticking.
And RoleCatcher's AI can be a valuable tool here too. It can analyze your response for clarity and impact, maybe even suggest ways to quantify your results, like how much product you processed within a specific time frame while adhering to kosher guidelines.
It's like adding data points to your story.
Yeah.
Right. Makes it even more convincing and memorable.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Experience, knowledge, staying current, customer service, food safety, working under pressure. Are there any other key questions that the guide highlights?
There's one that really gets at the heart of what it means to be a skilled kosher butcher.
Okay.
How do you ensure that all meat products are of the highest quality?
So this is where the true craftsmanship comes in.
Exactly. This question is your chance to really showcase your passion for the craft, your knowledge of different cuts, and your discerning eye for quality.
So it's not just about saying, I use sharp knives and follow the recipe.
Right.
It's about conveying that deeper understanding of what makes a piece of meat truly exceptional.
Precisely. You could talk about your meticulous approach to selecting and inspecting meat, maybe even mentioning specific suppliers or farms you trust for their quality. You could describe your knowledge of different cuts and how you choose the best ones for specific purposes.
So it's about showcasing that expertise. That goes beyond simply following instructions. It's about having that instinct, that passion for delivering the best possible product to the customer.
And don't forget to mention the importance of visual inspection.
Oh, right.
A skilled kosher butcher can spot imperfections that someone else might miss.
Yeah.
They're looking for that discerning eye, that attention to detail that sets a true craftsman apart.
It's like you're an artist,
right?
Working with this incredible material.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you refine your answer here, too. It might suggest adding details about specific kosher practices that contribute to quality, like the salting process or the removal of certain veins and fats.
That's a great way to connect those technical details back to your overall commitment to delivering the highest quality kosher meat.
Yes.
It shows that you're not just following rules, you're understanding the why behind them and how they contribute to the final product.
Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something that's often overlooked in interviews, but is incredibly important in this profession: teamwork.
Yes, because even though a butcher might spend a lot of time working independently,
right,
I imagine collaboration is still crucial, especially in a kosher butcher shop where everyone needs to be on the same page about those guidelines.
You're absolutely right. And that's why they might ask you a question like, can you describe a time you had to work effectively as part of a team?
So this is where those interpersonal skills come back into play, right? It's about showing your ability to communicate, coordinate, cooperate with others to achieve a common goal.
Think about a specific example where teamwork was essential in your previous role.
Okay.
Maybe it was a time when you had to collaborate with other butchers to fulfill a large order, or a situation where you had to work closely with a rabbi to ensure that a particular process was done according to kosher standards.
And it's not just about describing the task. It's about highlighting your specific contributions to the team's success.
Yeah. That's key. Did you take initiative, offer support to others, or find creative solutions to challenges that arose? Those are the details that will make your answer stand out.
And RoleCatcher's AI can help identify areas where you can strengthen your answer, maybe suggesting ways to quantify your contributions or highlight specific skills that are valuable in a team setting.
Absolutely. It can even analyze your tone of voice during practice sessions to ensure you're coming across as collaborative and supportive, which are essential qualities in any team environment.
Okay, so far we've covered a lot of ground, from technical skills to interpersonal skills, food safety, problem solving. I'm realizing there's one more crucial aspect of this job that we haven't really touched on yet: problem solving.
You're right. Things don't always go according to plan, especially in a fast-paced environment like a butcher shop.
For sure.
They want to know that you can think on your feet and find solutions when unexpected challenges arise.
And I'm guessing those problem-solving skills are even more important in a kosher butcher shop,
right,
where those strict guidelines add another layer of complexity.
Exactly. That's why a question like, can you tell us about a time you had to troubleshoot a problem with equipment, is almost guaranteed to come up.
So it's not just about knowing how to use the equipment. It's about knowing what to do when things go wrong.
Precisely. Think about a specific example where you had to deal with a broken piece of equipment, a power outage, maybe even a shortage of a particular ingredient.
Yeah.
How did you assess the situation, identify the root cause of the problem, and come up with a solution?
And it's not just about fixing the problem. It's about doing so while still adhering to those kosher practices.
That's crucial. Maybe you had to MacGyver a temporary fix while waiting for a repair, or maybe you had to adapt a recipe slightly to accommodate a missing ingredient while still ensuring it met kosher standards.
It's about being resourceful and thinking creatively within those constraints.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's AI can be valuable here as well. It can analyze your answer for clarity and impact, maybe even suggest ways to quantify the impact of your solution, like how much downtime you prevented or how much waste you reduced.
It's like adding tangible results to your story, making it even more compelling for the interviewer.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered a wide range of questions, from technical skills to interpersonal skills, from food safety to problem solving. I'm feeling a lot more prepared to tackle that interview.
That's great to hear. And remember, RoleCatcher is designed to help you throughout your entire journey in this profession, from preparing for that first interview to navigating different career stages.
Speaking of career stages, the guide mentions that there's a typical progression in this field. Can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely. RoleCatcher outlines those different stages, starting with an entry-level position where you're primarily assisting senior butchers,
Okay.
learning those hands-on techniques and absorbing all that essential knowledge about kosher practices.
So it's all about building that foundation.
Yes.
Those essential skills.
Exactly. And then as you gain experience and expertise, you move into more independent roles, handling more complex tasks, and even mentoring newcomers.
Okay.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Right. You're taking on more responsibility, tackling more challenging tasks, proving your mastery of the craft.
And finally, at the senior level, you're stepping into a leadership role, overseeing the entire operation training and supervising junior butchers, developing quality control procedures, ensuring compliance with all those food safety regulations.
It's like you've become the wise master, passing on your knowledge and skills to the next generation of kosher butchers.
And throughout this entire journey, RoleCatcher's there with you, providing insights, resources, and even personalized feedback to help you thrive at every stage.
That's incredible. It's like having a mentor, a coach, and a cheerleader all rolled into one.
It is.
Wow. I'm starting to see how this deep dive into RoleCatcher has given me not just tips for the interview, but like a glimpse into the entire career path.
And that's what's so valuable about it. It's not just about helping you get the job. It's about helping you succeed in the long run.
Right.
Supporting you as you grow and develop your skills in this really unique and rewarding profession.
Okay. I'm feeling inspired, but before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier, the pros and cons of this job.
Yeah.
We've talked about the amazing aspects,
Right.
the craftsmanship, the connection to tradition, but the guide also mentioned some challenges.
It does. It's important to go into this field with a realistic understanding of both the rewards and the demands.
So what are some of the downsides?
Well, as you can imagine, it's physically demanding work.
Yeah.
You're on your feet for long hours, lifting and carrying heavy items, working with sharp tools. It requires a certain level of physical stamina and dexterity.
That makes sense. It's not a desk job.
Right.
That's for sure.
And it can also be quite a specialized field. The guide specifically mentions that job opportunities might be limited outside Jewish communities.
Okay, that's something to keep in mind.
However, the guide also highlights the amazing upsides.
Yeah.
You know, you're developing a skilled craft, connecting with tradition, and there's even potential for entrepreneurship down the line. Maybe even opening your own shop someday.
That's the dream. And speaking of career paths, I'm realizing that this deep dive has given me so much more than just interview tips. It's given me a glimpse into the heart of this profession, the challenges, the rewards, and the impact it has on people's lives.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about so much more than just cutting meat. It's about preserving traditions, building community, and ensuring that people have access to food that aligns with their deeply held beliefs.
Yeah, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's given me a new appreciation for the art of kosher butchery and the dedication of those who practice it.
Now, before we sign off, there's one more aspect of RoleCatcher that I want to highlight.
Okay.
It's AI-powered features that can really help you shine in that interview.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about how RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your answers and provide feedback. But can you tell me more about like the specific ways it can help me tailor my responses to this particular job?
That's a great question, and it's one of the things that makes RoleCatcher so unique. It's not just a generic interview prep tool.
Right.
It's specifically designed to help you succeed in specific job roles, like kosher butcher.
So how does it actually work?
Well, first, you tell RoleCatcher about the job you're applying for.
Okay.
You can input the job description, the company, name any specific requirements or skills they're looking for.
So it gets like a clear understanding of the target role.
Exactly. Then when you practice your answers to those common interview questions, RoleCatcher's AI analyzes your responses, not just for general clarity and impact, but also for relevance to that specific job.
So it's like having an expert in kosher butchery.
Yes.
Listening to my answers and offering tailored feedback.
That's a great way to put it. It might suggest incorporating specific terminology related to kosher practices, highlighting experiences that are particularly relevant to this role, or even recommending ways to connect your answers back to the company's values or mission.
That's incredibly helpful. It's like having a personal interview coach who understands the nuances of this field.
And it goes beyond just content. RoleCatcher's AI can even analyze your delivery, offering feedback on your pace, tone, and even your body language during those practice sessions.
That's taking interview prep to a whole new level.
It is.
It's almost like having a virtual mock interview with an expert coach.
Exactly. And by incorporating that feedback, you can really refine your presentation and boost your confidence going into the real deal.
Okay, I'm starting to see how RoleCatcher can be a game changer in the interview process. It's not just about memorizing answers.
Right.
It's about understanding how to present yourself in a way that resonates with those hiring managers who are looking for a skilled and dedicated kosher butcher.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to RoleCatcher's capabilities. It offers a whole suite of tools to help you throughout your career, from networking and job searching to skill development and career advancement.
It's like having a lifelong career companion, guiding you every step of the way. I'm feeling inspired and ready to take on this challenge. But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I have one more question about the job itself. We've talked about the technical skills, the interpersonal skills, the importance of food safety, quality. But are there any specific personality traits that are particularly valuable in this profession?
That's a great question, and it's one that often comes up in interviews either directly or indirectly. They're not just looking for someone who can cut meat. They're looking for someone who fits the culture of a kosher butcher shop.
Right.
Someone who embodies those values of tradition, respect, and community.
So what kind of personality traits would you say are important?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say a strong work ethic is essential. This is a demanding job, both physically and mentally. So they're looking for someone who's reliable, dedicated, and willing to put in the effort.
That makes sense. You need to be someone who shows up on time, follows through on tasks, takes pride in their work.
Exactly. And then there's attention to detail, as we've discussed. Precision is paramount in kosher butchery.
Right.
So they're looking for someone who's meticulous, thorough, and has a keen eye for quality.
It's not a job for someone who's sloppy or careless.
Definitely not. And then I'd say a calm and patient demeanor is also important. As you mentioned earlier, things can get hectic in a kosher butcher shop, especially around holidays or large orders. They need someone who can stay focused, handle pressure gracefully, and maintain a positive attitude even when things get challenging.
It's about being the steady hand in the storm.
Exactly. And finally, I'd say a genuine respect for Jewish traditions and values is essential. This isn't just a job. It's a way of life for many people. So they're looking for someone who understands and appreciates the significance of what they're doing.
It's about being more than just a butcher. It's about being a steward of tradition, a guardian of those values that are so important to the community.
You've summed it up perfectly. And remember, RoleCatcher can help you highlight those personality traits in your interview answers.
Yeah.
It might suggest incorporating specific anecdotes or experiences that showcase your work ethic, your attention to detail, your calm demeanor, and your respect for Jewish traditions.
It's like having a personal brand strategist, helping you present your best self to those potential employers. Okay, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for this deep dive. It's given me not just practical tips for the interview, but a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be a kosher butcher.
And that's what's so valuable about RoleCatcher. It's not just about helping you get the job. It's about helping you find a career that aligns with your values, your skills, and your passions.
Well said. I'm feeling inspired and excited to embark on this journey. Now, I'm eager to hear what other insights RoleCatcher has in store for us as we move into the final part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our kosher butchery deep dive. And I gotta say, I'm feeling a lot more confident about that interview than I did when we started.
That's fantastic to hear. It's amazing how much we've uncovered, from those technical skills to those deeper values of tradition and community.
Absolutely. And speaking of community, you mentioned earlier that RoleCatcher has some features that can help with networking and discovering new opportunities.
Yeah,
Can you tell me a little more about that?
of course. Remember how we talked about the importance of connecting with other professionals in the kosher food world?
Yeah.
Well, RoleCatcher has this built-in network management tool that can really help you build and maintain those valuable connections.
So it's like a LinkedIn specifically for people in the kosher food industry.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
You can import and organize your contacts, categorize them by specialty or location, even link them to specific job applications.
Wow.
It's like having a strategic command center for all your networking efforts.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
I'm always struggling to keep track of all my contacts and remembering who does what.
Sure,
This sounds like a much more organized approach.
it is. And here's where it gets really interesting. If you opt in, employers registered on RoleCatcher can actually use this reverse matching system to find potential candidates.
Wait, so they're coming to me.
Exactly.
Hmm.
They input their job skill requirements, and RoleCatcher matches those against the profiles of users who've opted in. It's like putting your best self out there and letting the opportunities come to you.
That's amazing. It takes a lot of the pressure off, all that job hunting and kind of puts you in the driver's seat. I love that.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of having a well-crafted profile on RoleCatcher, showcasing those skills and experiences that make you stand out.
So it's all about being proactive,
Mhm.
putting yourself out there, and letting RoleCatcher's technology do some of the heavy lifting. I'm definitely going to have to explore this feature.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I wanted to ask you something that's been on my mind.
Okay.
We've talked about all these traditional techniques, but the world is constantly changing,
Right.
especially with technology. How do you see technology impacting the future of kosher butchery?
That's a fantastic question. And honestly, it's one that I think a lot of people in the industry are grappling with right now. On one hand, you have these ancient traditions that have been passed down for generations, and there's a deep respect for those methods and practices.
But on the other hand, you have all these new technologies emerging.
That could potentially make the process more efficient, more precise, maybe even more sustainable.
Exactly. And it's about finding that balance, that sweet spot, where technology can enhance and support those traditions without compromising the core values of kosher butchery.
So it's not about replacing the human element. It's about using technology as a tool
Yeah.
to elevate the craft.
I think that's a great way to put it. For example, I've seen some fascinating developments in meat traceability systems using blockchain technology to track the origin and handling of every piece of meat, ensuring transparency and accountability throughout the supply chain.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a digital fingerprint for every piece of meat, guaranteeing its authenticity and kosher status.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And then there are advancements in precision cutting tools using lasers or water jets to make incredibly precise cuts, reducing waste and improving yield.
That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's real and it's happening right now. And then there are even developments in cultured meat, growing meat from animal cells in a lab, which could potentially have huge implications for the future of kosher meat production.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what the kosher butcher shop of the future will look like.
It does, and I think that's part of the excitement of this profession. It's not static, it's evolving, and there's so much potential for innovation and growth.
Well, I have to say this deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've gone from feeling intimidated by that interview to feeling really excited about the possibilities of a career in kosher butchery.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, it's not just about acing the interview. It's about approaching this profession with passion, respect for tradition, and a commitment to continuous learning. The world of kosher butchery is constantly evolving, and those who are open to embracing new ideas and technologies while upholding those core values will be the ones who shape its future.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to be a part of that future. Thank you so much for guiding me through this deep dive. I feel like I've gained so much.
It's been my absolute pleasure.
All right, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the fascinating world of kosher butchery. We hope you found this episode helpful and informative. And remember, if you're looking to take your career to the next level, RoleCatcher is an incredible resource that can guide you every step of the way. Until next time, happy butchering.